guys, it's Mystic Fairy King here. Now today we are going to do another review into Lady Gaga's discography. We are going to be doing her fourth album, Art Pop, which was released on November 6th of 2013. Art Pop was more of an experimental album for Lady Gaga because she had just gotten done with the Born This Way tour, which unfortunately she had to end prematurely because of having a hip surgery. But in the process of that tour, she was writing this album. The first track, Aura. Now, I really like the sound of Aura, and if you guys don't know the song, she had done it as a promotional vid. Now, if you guys haven't listened to the song Aura yet, it may be a little familiar if you've watched the movie Machete. But I haven't watched it yet, but it did appear in a trailer, and I'm not sure if it appeared in the movie. But there's a little cool factoid about that song in particular. But this song in itself takes some Islamic traditions of covering their bodies other than their eyes, because that was their culture. Lady Gaga uses this as a type of metaphor for life as a celebrity. Now we're gonna move on to the next track of the album, number 2, Venus. Now, I personally like the song Venus because it really takes a lot of different references and inspirations from Greek mythology, Venus, the goddess of love, and she uses that as a way to describe the song's meaning, which is kind of like faith, but not just finding faith, as well as finding it in different places and what kind of lies beyond that. But not only that, the song in itself is also about love, sex, romance, and you can really hear it within the music. The way how it talks about sex, but the way how she refers to sex is in more of a mythological way. But now we're going to move on to the third track in the album, Guy, which means girl under you. It really delves into some topics of sexual dominance or in submission, and the gender roles in which are in not only relationships but sexual gender roles. And it really talks about feminism in a whole, which is very empowering, and it really shows within the lyrics. But now we're gonna move on to Sex Dreams. Sex Dreams was inspired by dirty the dirty thoughts, those white dreams that you have, and the fantasies that Lady Gaga would have. Now the song, in lyrically wise, is about her basically initiating an affair with a man's girlfriend, but at the same time it also kind of mixes in the lust and the temptation that the other woman is feeling in vice versa, which you definitely feel within the combination of the music and the lyrics. And now we are going to move on to Jewels and Drugs, my least favorite song, just kind of sound wise, just because I'm not a big trap music kind or rap kind of person. But this song itself is ultimately about Gaga telling her fans that she doesn't care about the money in itself, but she cares more about her fans and the love that she gets from her fans, and doing what and loves doing what she's doing as an artist in a whole, presenting herself rather than the materialistic things like getting money and just the things that you would think that's a lot of celebrities are very much into, but she's not, and she states it very much so in this song. But not only, but and also some of her, at least a few of her previous songs. But with that, we are going to move on to her next track, which is Manicure. Now, what I didn't know was that it's not just a whole whole word in itself. Manicure. She also states that it's kind of like a put together like three-worded thing. It's like man, I cure, which I thought that was pretty cool. Now, Manicure is a song about pretty much about somebody getting ready to go out, to catch themselves a man or a girl, whatever fits your fancy, having the intention of getting some. And that's pretty much the whole that's pretty much what the song is about, which I didn't know about that which I didn't know that that's what the song was about when I first listened to the song like years ago, back when it first came out. But now listening to it years later, as a much older adult, that's really cool. I'm going to be reviewing the original version of this song, which is Do What You Want. And I do understand Lady Gaga's reasoning for completely taking the original track off of all streaming services in light of everything that happened with him. But we're not going to get into that. Now, the song in itself, Do What You Want, is kind of like Gaga's way of comparing what the media says about her, and how she's like, they can say whatever the heck they want, but it's also kind of like she's comparing it to an explicit romance consent of sorts. In the parts where R. Kelly comes in, he's doing the voice of that person, of the other person that the lover joins go ham sexually. And I rather like it because the original track with R. Kelly really displays that. Don't get me wrong, I love Christina Aguilera, but it just didn't really have the same sound to it that the original had. With that, we are going to move on to the title song of the album, Art Pop. Now, Art Pop is one of my top songs of this album, because Art Pop is basically Lady Gaga's way of stating how basically she's bringing in itself art and pop, which are two completely different forms of media and artistry, and she is merging them together. She's essentially kind of like her love and affection that she has for her, between her and her fans. We are going to move on to Swine. It has a lot of deep meaning for Lady Gaga, because before even the fame started kicking off, before she started doing that, she did have a very traumatic sexual experience with an old manager. From what I researched, I thought it was very tragic. Now, and this song is essentially about her talking about that, and like everything, like the raw emotion of like being demoralized, and the rage, the fury, And the passion that she felt, that you feel in a song, is very much kind of like how she, like, basically, like, she's putting a lot of her raw emotions into this track. But at the same time, she's also talking about, like, within the lyrics, she's talking about the rejection of an abusive lover, which, once again, that kind of delves a little bit into what I said before about that sexual experience she had. It celebrates that the inner swine that she has, and that kind of like everybody kind of has. Now we're gonna move on to the next track of the album, Donatella. Now Donatella is a track that is dedicated to Donatella Versace herself. There were times where, like, a emotional major emotional support system for Lady Gaga when she was having very difficult times. We're gonna move on to fashion, loving the transformation of, like, when you dress up and wear designer fashion, or even just like just dressing up in itself, and just feeling like you're on top of the world. She's dressing up, wearing all this really nice high fashion. It's like looking good and feeling fine. And it really sits. And it really shows within the lyrics. Mary Jane Holland. Now, the song is ultimately about this alter ego that Lady Gaga has whenever she smokes weed. It really kind of plays a big part in a lot of like this, the production, and like the thought processes, and at least a good portion of the tracks. Pretty much the song is ultimately about Mary Jane Holland, the alter ego of Lady Gaga. Now we're gonna move on to Dope. Now, Dope is a very emotional song, because she really talks about her addiction her addiction to marijuana that she gets ultimately from, like, when she after healing from hip surgery. And it really is pretty much an apology. Now, before I ramble anymore, we're gonna move on to the next track, Gypsy. This song is personally about, like, it's basically about her life after becoming an entertainer, and how when she started traveling the world, she started romanticizing about the idea of traveling, basically. And like a gypsy who, and as most people know, gypsies are essentially people who don't necessarily have a home. So within this song, she's stating how she loves the life of a gypsy, and traveling and meeting new people, having new experiences, but ultimately doing what she loves as an entertainer. Now we are going to move on to the final track of the album, Applause. Applause is a song that is ultimately about the celebration of sticking it to the haters, and doing what you love, and embracing the thrills of the crowd. Like, basically what Lady Gaga feels in itself to when she steps out on stage. She's showing people what she loves to do, how being an entertainer, and she gets a thrill from that. And in this song, she's definitely showing that. And basically when she says within the lyrics, it's like, I live for the applause. She's ultimately living for the love, attention from her fans. And I think it is, and I think Applause is probably one of the best ways to end off this album. It didn't make it. They didn't sell as many copies as her last three albums, but I'm not. But I'm not gonna get into that. A little side note that within a previous video, I was wearing a shirt that pretty much is kind of like almost the same thing as this one, but this shirt is a different one, just so that way if you guys watch it, you're not all like, oh, he doesn't change his clothes, and it's like, which is not the case at all. I honestly just got this shirt as a Christmas present. And with that, I am going to see you guys later, and you guys have a wonderful night.